All right, good evening. For you guys that don't know, I am Chad. The pastor couldn't be here, Sam couldn't be here, and Jeremiah couldn't be here, so you get the fourth string quarterback. Right? Everyone happy about that? So, sorry about that. But we're going to start off with some hymnal singing, and Christy, okay, I got it. And Karen. Thank you, guys. Can you guys hear me okay? Do I need to adjust this thing? Good, yay, nay, good, okay. In the shed, I don't get a mic to yell at the kids. I just talk straight to them, so. Ain't that right, Will? Shake your head. Okay. All right, so we're going to start with a prayer request.
There's a good report on Lead Day. I'm just going to testify for a minute, if that's okay. While Lacey gets set up here. We're just a couple of imperfect people up here, just trying to sing about a perfect Jesus. And the name of this song is called What Kind of Man? And on the way here this morning, as I was trying to practice, because it's a very hard song, I just thought back about what kind of man is Jesus to me. And we all have a different testimony. And as we sing this, I hope that you just reflect in your heart about what kind of man he is to you and what he has done. Death was
bleeds for the worthless and saves him whatever it takes. What kind of man would rescue the sinner and offer amazing grace at Calvary? At Calvary, for someone like me. Someone like me, someone like me.
Thank you, Landon. All right, you want to pray for the offering? Thanks. Amen. All right, thank you, guys. All right, if you guys have your Bible, go ahead and open up to Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 2. So that's going to be in the Old Testament, kind of closer to the back. If you got to Hosea, you went too far. All right, so in today's study, we're going to be looking at the book of Daniel. The book of Daniel is a very, very interesting book, and there's a lot of wild things that pop out, and it's just a really interesting and an intriguing book. And what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at the statues and the 4 beasts that are in Daniel. All right. So the main thing that we're going to look at today is there's 2 visions, and there's going to be 1 message. And when we look in Daniel chapter 2 and in Daniel chapter 7 is what we're going to look at today. Let's see if my thing works. Sorry, I'm learning something new up here. All right, so to give you a little context, what's happened in Daniel so far is Daniel's Nebuchadnezzar had besieged King Jehoiakim, and he took over the Judah's kingdom. And when they took over the Judah's kingdom, they ended up taking some Israelites captive with them. And Daniel was one of those captives that were taking. He was a young boy, and when they took him captive, they would take a lot of the smartest people with them to, I feel like this thing's echoing really bad. They would take a lot of the smart people with them so they could try to help cultivate them into the Babylonian Empire and their kind of culture. So that's kind of where we're at. So he was taken captive, and now he's in Babylon. He's been here for a few years now. And Nebuchadnezzar's statue, let's see. So the main thing that I want to look at today is we're going to look at the big picture is that kingdoms rise and kingdoms falls, but Jesus Christ remains. And that's kind of the big picture that we're going to see in Daniel chapter 2, and that's what Daniel's really trying to get across here in Daniel 2 is that no matter what's happening in the world, that in the end, Jesus is going to win. All right, so we're going to, did I tell you guys what chapter you're at, chapter 2? Okay. So I'm going to start reading right here in chapter 2. In the 2nd year of the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar dreamed dreams, wherewith his spirit was troubled, and his sleep brake from him. And the king commanded to call the magicians, and the astrologers, and the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans, for to show the king his dream. So they came and stood before the king. And the king said unto them, I have dreamed a dream, and my spirit was troubled to know the dream. So Nebuchadnezzar, he's a very wealthy, powerful king. He controls all of Babylon, but the one thing that he did not control at that instant was his mind. And no matter what he did, he could not get a full night of sleep. He could not get any rest because he had this troubling dream. And sometimes God reminds humans that they're human God sometimes reminds powerful people that they are still human. Nebuchadnezzar had all the armies and all the wealth and all this thing, but he could not get peace in his heart, no matter all these things that he had. So what he did there is So he didn't know his dream, so he called all these sorcerers and the magicians there. Then spake the Chaldeans to the king Siserac, O king, live forever. Tell thy servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. The king answered and said to the Chaldeans, the thing is gone from you. If ye will not make known unto me the dream, with the interpretation thereof, ye shall be cut in pieces, and your houses shall be made a dunghill. But if ye show me the dream and the interpretations thereof, ye shall receive of me gifts and rewards, great honor. Therefore show me the dream and the interpretation thereof. They answered again and said, let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will show the interpretation. The king answered and said, I know of certainty that if ye would gain the time, because ye know thing is gone from me. But if ye will not make known unto me the dream, there is but one decree for you, for ye have prepared lying and corrupt words to speak before me. Till the time be changed, therefore tell me the dream, and I shall know that ye can show me the interpretation thereof. And the Chaldeans answered before the king and said, there is not a man upon the earth that can show the king's matter. Therefore there is no king, lord, nor ruler that asks such things at any magician or astrologers or Chaldeans. And it is a rare thing that the king requireth, and there is none other that can show it before the king except the gods who dwelleth that are not in flesh. So what's happening here is the king has that dream, and he's really troubled, and he can't remember that dream. And when he can't remember that dream, he calls on his magicians and his astrologers and the Chaldeans to tell him the dream because he can't remember it. And they tell the king that this is impossible. No man can do that, which they are right. No man can do that. But he tells them that if you can't tell me my dream and tell me the interpretation, I'm going to cut you up into pieces and I'm going to kill you. So that's the problem that these wise men are facing. So there's two things that he wanted. He wanted them to tell him the dream, and he wanted to know what the dream meant. And they protested against it. All right, so this affected Daniel a lot because Daniel was actually considered one of the wise men. And what happened here is that Arioch, which is the captain's guard, was actually heading to go actually start killing some of the magicians and the astrologers and stuff like that, and Daniel actually stops him and he asks him what he's doing, and he fills Daniel in with what's going on. And when he does this, this really troubles Daniel, and Daniel's like, give me some time, let me pray, and I can find this out. So that's what he does here, that we're going to read here in a second. So Daniel didn't panic, he didn't run, he didn't blame someone else. He went, he got his friends, and he actually ended up, and he prayed to see what God wanted to do and see if God will give him the vision. That's where we're going to pick up right here in verse 16. And Daniel went into and desired of the king that he would give him time, that he would show the king the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house and made the thing known to Hanani, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions, that they would desire mercy of the God of heaven concerning this secret, that Daniel and his fellows should not perish with the rest of the men of Babylon. So what happens here is when Daniel faces pressure, when he's facing trials, the first thing he does is he runs to God, and he prays, and he doesn't panic. And the question that we can ask ourselves is when pressures arise and when times get hard, what is the first thing we do? Do we run towards fear, or do we run towards God? Do we seek out counsel from individuals, or do we seek counsel from God first? So that's a good example that we can take from Daniel, is that he sought out counsel from God, and he prayed to God to help deliver him and to help him with that. And God ended up actually granting his request, and he actually let Daniel know what the dream meant. And the first thing he does before he even goes and tells the king is he takes a couple minutes to praise God and to thank God for delivering him, to thank God for helping him through this, and to thank God for revealing this mystery to him. So Daniel praised God, and then after he's done praising God, he essentially beelines it straight to King Nebuchadnezzar to tell him the dream and what happened. But when he's heading there and he's about to talk to he's about to talk to Nebuchadnezzar, which we're going to pick up right here in chapter 28, he makes one thing really, really clear to King Nebuchadnezzar, and that's what I want to look at here is what he makes really clear to him. So he's there, he says, I know your interpretation, I know what the soothsayers couldn't know, I know what the astrologers couldn't know, I know what no man can know. And this is where he takes off here, and he's going to show him. And he says, but there is a God in heaven that revealeth secret and maketh known to the king Nebuchadnezzar what shall be in the latter days. Thy dream and thy vision of thy head upon thy bed are these. As for thee, O king, thy thoughts came into my mind upon the bed, but should come to pass hereafter, and he revealed secret, making known to thee what shall come to pass. But as for me, this secret is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have made more than any living, but for their sake, that shall make known the interpretation to the king, and that thou mightest know the thoughts of thy heart. So the first thing he tells him is he's letting him know, hey, this is not my doing. This is not because I'm wise. This is not anything in my own being. This is because there's a God in heaven who I have a relationship with, who I talk to, that let me know these things. And he makes that very, very clear to King Nebuchadnezzar right here off the get-go. So he's let him know that before he's letting him know the dream, he wants to know how he got the interpretation, because he doesn't want King Nebuchadnezzar thinking that the interpretation came from him. He wants him to know that it came from God. So essentially, he's not taking credit for it. He wants to make sure that the credit is going to God and that God is getting all the glory from this. So now we're gonna take up right here at 31, and we're gonna see what this dream is and what this statue is and what all this stuff means. Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent. Skip it. Stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. This image head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet part of iron and part of clay. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet, and that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, the gold broken to pieces together, and became like the chaff of the summer threshing floor. And the winds carried them away, that no place was found for them. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. That makes sense to everybody? Okay, good. It didn't make sense to me either until I studied it out. All right. I got two things I got to click, so I keep thinking I click one, I'm not clicking the other. All right, so this is kind of the image. So we have the head, which is going to be Babylon. And I'm going to break all this down here in a minute to kind of show you guys how I got that and how the Bible actually reveals that to us, so we know what is what and how this prophecy lies into more of Daniel and into Revelation, okay? So the head of gold is Babylon. The chest of silver is the Medo-Persian Empire. The belly and thighs of bronze are Greece. The legs of iron are Rome, and the feet are iron and clay. And the rock that is cut without stone is Jesus Christ. And we're going to dive into all that. We're going to kind of see how all those line up. I'm going to give you kind of like an overview. I'm not going to dive too deep into stuff, but we should have a pretty good understanding, okay? So this buff guy right here is the Nebuchadnezzar statue, and the head right there is gold, and we know that as Babylon. How do we know that? I'm going to tell you. Okay? All right. And whosoever the children of men do well, and the beasts of the field, and the fowls of the heaven, has given thy hand, and has made thee ruler over them, thou art the head of gold. Okay, so that's how we know that the Babylon is the head of gold, because right after Daniel tells him that prophecy, he lets Nebuchadnezzar know that, hey, you are that head of gold. And that fits really well with Babylon, because Babylon was they were very wealthy, they had power, they were very magnificent in everything they did, they were very royal. So just gold really, really fit them. But Daniel also let him know here that there would also, after him, there would come another kingdom that would be inferior to him. So this is kind of where we're going to jump back and forth between Daniel 2, and we're going to jump back and forth in between Daniel 7, okay? So Daniel 2 is going to be all about the statue. Daniel 2 is all about the dream that Nebuchadnezzar had. Now, when we jump over to Daniel 7, which is going to be about the dream that Daniel had, okay? So we're looking at two different perspectives here, okay? Another thing that you need about the book of Daniel is that Daniel is not in chronological order, okay? So I know that we're skipping 2 or 3 books, but it's because it's not in chronological order, okay? Between Daniel 2 and Daniel 7, when he gives this to Belshazzar, Nebuchadnezzar, and then Nebuchadnezzar actually ends up dying. When he dies, there's about 10 years. And when he's dead, there's actually about 4 kings that are between Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar. And those 4 kings either die of natural causes or they're assassinated by family members. Okay, it's a good time to be a king back then. All right, someone always wants your throne, so you always got to watch out. All right, but the 2 distinctions that I want to make here is that Daniel 2 is man's vision. Daniel 7 is more of heaven's vision, okay? So it's the same scene, but shot from 2 different camera angles. So try to think about it in that light, okay? And what we'll notice in Daniel 2 is that when humans are looking at kingdoms, they look at all these precious metals, the gold, the silver, the bronze. Like, these are pretty metals. These are things that people like, right? So that's the way humans are looking at nations, stuff like that. But when God's seeing it, when God's looking at it, these nations that are tearing each other apart and doing all this wicked things, he sees them more like beast. So that's the correlation that we're making between Daniel 2 and Daniel 7, and they go hand in hand, which we're going to look at that more. Oops. All right, so go ahead and turn over to Daniel 7:4, and we're going to see where we see the Babylonian Empire in the beast. Let me get there too, okay? All right, so in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and a vision of his head upon his bed, and he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matter. Daniel spoke and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of heaven strove upon the great sea. And the 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion, had eagle's wings, and I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked. And it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. So what we see here is that the first kingdom is likened onto a lion with wings, okay? Because Babylon was, when you think of a lion's very strong, and Babylon was a very strong empire. And when they conquered, they did it very, very swiftly. And when you do secular history and you study the Babylon Empire, a lot of the time their national animal would be a griffin, which is the lion and the lion with wings. So when we study history, that's how we know that it's them. We also know that too, because that ties into Daniel 2. So that's how we know Daniel 7 is talking about Babylon. See if that did. Okay. All right. So Babylon is reigning, but we know that there's going to be another kingdom that's going to come after them. But we're going to look at first, I'm not going to go through all of Daniel 5 because of time, but what happens here is Babylon ends up falling to the Medo-Persian Empire. And one of the reasons this happened is because Belshazzar is now in control. And what he did is, when Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the first temple, which is Solomon's temple, when they destroyed that, they ended up actually taking artifacts out of the temple. And when they took those artifacts out of the temple, they had them stored away, Nebuchadnezzar did, because they didn't want to use them. Now Belshazzar is in charge, and they end up having a feast. And when they have the feast, he tells his servants to bring out the to bring out the silver and the gold cups and stuff from the temple of Solomon. And when they're doing that, they're having their feast and they're doing these things. And while they're doing this, their whole fortress, their whole city is actually surrounded by the Medo-Persian Empire. They're at the gates. They're all over. And Belshazzar could care less because he feels like he's untouchable. He feels like that he's ruler supreme and that nobody can touch him. And while they're actually having this feast, this hand starts writing on the wall. Who's ever heard of seen that before, or read this before, right? Can anyone say it? I struggle saying it. That's all I was asking. I don't know. I can't say it. That's why I asked you. I was looking at Sam. I was like, is Sam going to say this? No, but I can tell you what it means. If anyone wants to try to say it, it's in Daniel 5. Got to find the verse real quick. 25? Thanks, Mark. Knew I could count on you. Do you want to try saying it? That's way better than I would do. I'm not even going to try to attempt to say it. Okay, you did really, really good. All right, so in English, what does that mean, okay? It means that you've been numbered, you've been weighed, and you've been divided, okay? So that's what this hand starts writing on the wall. I mean, can you imagine being at a feast and out of nowhere, there's just like this hand just starts writing big on the wall, and you're just freaking out, rubbing your eyes, it's like saying, is this true, and stuff like that? Like, that would really, really scare me. And it actually really started Belshazzar, and he starts trying to find someone to interpret that because no one knows what that means. So that's when they remember Daniel, good old Daniel. He can interpret anything, right, with God's help. So he comes there, and he actually reads it, and he tells them what it means. It says you've been numbered, you've been weighed, and you've been divided. And Daniel actually gets a big reward for that. And later that night, after he figures out what it means, the Medo-Persian Empire actually breaks through the gates, and they actually end up killing Belshazzar that exact night. So right after he seen the writing on the wall. So that's the wings of the lion are plucked off, and the fall of the Babylonian Empire happens right here. And that's where the Medo-Persian Empire takes off next. So you guys can go back over to Daniel 2. We're going to be flipping back and forth between Daniel 2 and Daniel 7. All right, so now we have the second part of the statue. So we have the gold, which is the Babylonian Empire, which is the lion with the wings. So now we're moving to the Medo-Persian Empire. All right, and right here in 239. All right, and there shall rise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another, I may have wrote down the wrong reference. But anyways, so what happens here is the next empire ends up taking over, and that's going to be the Medo-Persian Empire, and they're going to be the silver. And, okay, next slide. So the Medo-Persian Empire, they reigned from 539 through 331 BC. I always mess up saying BC because it's actually counting down, so it kind of confuses my brain every time I look at it, because it's counting down before Christ. All right, so we have the statue, we have the silver, and that's going to be the Medo-Persian Empire. Okay, if you notice in the statue too, the statue has two arms because there's two empires on the Medo-Persian Empire. So go ahead and turn back to Daniel 7, and we're going to see why there's two empires and how that we know that. So Daniel 7:5. And behold, another beast, a second, like a bear, and it's raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said that thus unto it arise, devour much flesh. So what we see about the Medo-Persian Empire is that you notice one thing about the bear. The bear says that it's raised on one side. The reason that it's doing that, and the reason that the Bible's saying that, is because out of the two kingdoms between the Medo And the Persian Empire, there's one empire that's actually greater than the other, okay? There's one that's stronger than the other, and that's going to be the Persian Empire. The Persian Empire was stronger than the Median Empire. And the three ribs that the bear is eating right here, a lot of people believe that it is the first three kingdoms that they actually ended up overtaking once they started conquering. They ended up taking Babylon first, then Lydia, and then Egypt. So those are the three ribs that the bear devoured, okay? And then once the Medo-Persian Empire conquered everything and they were at the height of their reign, they actually doubled the Babylonian Empire. So they devoured a lot of flesh. All right. There's also correlation between Daniel 3, which I'm not going to go here just because of time. Oops. So in Daniel 8:3, if you guys want on your own, so you guys can go look at there is going to be a ram there, and that ram's going to have two horns. One's going to be bigger than the other, okay? So that also correlates to the Medo-Persian Empire. And when you read Daniel 8:3, he's going to actually say that in Daniel 8:3 that the Medo-Persian Empire is the ram, and the ram has one big horn than the other. So if you guys want to study that out, you guys can kind of look into that. I just didn't want to because I didn't know if I would have enough time to do that. So, and that's Daniel 8:3 if you guys want to look at that. All right, so now we have the fourth empire. Gotta remember to do that, which is the Greece Empire. And they are going to be the belly and thighs of brass. Okay? So they take over. All right? So when they take over, right here in Daniel 6, we're going to see how the Bible describes them, and we'll get into some history of why we believe that they are Greece. After this I beheld, and lo, another, like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings, and a fowl, or like a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. All right, so what's one thing we know about a leopard? Like, if you think about a leopard, what do you think about? Speed, right? Yeah, when you think about a leopard, you think about speed, okay? When you think about a turtle, what do you think about? Slow, okay? All right? So that's what the Bible is portraying here, okay? So we have a leopard, which is already really, really fast, but not only is it that, it's also going to have wings, okay? So when we're seeing wings in the Bible, we're talking about swiftness, speed, agility. So it has not only one set of wings, it has 2 sets of wings, okay? So this thing has 4 wings and it has 4 heads. All right, and cheetahs are really, really fast. They can run about 45, 50 miles per hour, which is a little faster than Logan. All right, he thinks he runs about 45 miles per hour. So this fits really, really, really great for a person that ran Greece and actually conquered a lot of land. Does anyone know who this guy is, who this general was that was in Greece? Come on, all you guys feel history? Alexander the Great. Okay, all right, good. So everyone knows Alexander the Great, heard of that name, right? So Daniel actually prophesied about what he was going to do well before he even did what he did, okay? Because God knows history. God knows what's going to happen. All right, he knows the beginning, middle, and end. All right, so he knew that Alexander the Great was going to do what he did and that he was going to do it very, very swiftly and very, very quickly. All right, so when Greece ends up taking over, Alexander takes over and he conquers from Macedonia to all the way to Persia, throughout the Middle East, and he does this in less than 10 years, okay, which is a feat that is just really, really fast, okay? I mean, we know how long wars and stuff like that take, right? We were supposed to be over there for a week, and we've been there for, 6 months? Like over there in Iran and dealing with all that stuff. So wars can take a very, very long time, but Alexander the Great actually ended up taking over all that stuff in 10 years, okay? And then after he takes all of this over, he ends up suddenly dying at the age of 32. And when he dies, he ends up he has 4 generals, okay? So we see in the prophecy right here, we see in the beast has 4 heads. And these 4 heads are the 4 generals, okay? Because when he dies, he has no heir. So what happens is his kingdom is actually, or his, I skipped one. The kingdom is divided into 4 empires, and the 4 generals end up taking over the 4 empires. And that's what the 4 heads are for. And if you can also go to Daniel 8, and you're going to see a goat. When you see the goat in Daniel 8, that's actually talking about Greece too. So Daniel 2, Daniel 7, and Daniel 8 are all going to relate to these beasts and to the statues, but Daniel 8 only ties into the leopard and the bear, okay? And them warring against one another. All right, so now we're getting to the fourth beast, okay? All right, is this one too scary? Okay, Lacey was scared kids were going to see it and be scared. I said, they're okay. It's just Barney with horns. That's what it looks like to me. All right, so the fourth beast is the Roman Empire. All right, and the Roman Empire was very, very fierce, and they were very, very strong, and they ruled with iron, okay? Their military strength was well known, and their kingdom was strong, but it was not everlasting. All right, and we looked at the statue. When we looked at the statue of Nebuchadnezzar in chapter 2, which is Nebuchadnezzar's dream, the statue was iron, and that was the legs. All right, and there's one thing that we're going to notice about these metals. These metals are getting less and less precious, but they're getting tougher and tougher and tougher, right? If you take iron and you hit gold, it's gonna break, right? And the same thing with the silver and the bronze, it's going to dent it up. So iron's very, very tough. And Rome was very, very tough. It was a very, very tough kingdom that was not very generous at all. And when we look out throughout the Rome and with their chariots and the way that they ruled and their punishments and their colosseums and all the things they did, they ruled through fear and they ruled through force, and they ruled through fear and force by using this iron and being tough. All right, so Daniel 7:7. After this I saw the night vision, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth, and it devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped to subdue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. And I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there was 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and behold, in his horn were eyes, like the eyes of man, and the mouth speaking great things. All right, so this beast that's devouring and doing all these things is Rome, okay? The 10 horns, which we're not going to get in today, are going to be 10 kingdoms. And these 10 kingdoms are going to come later. And you can read about these 10 kingdoms, and you can read about in Revelation chapter 13, these 10 kingdoms that are to come during the tribulation. And you noticed right there, there's 10 horns, but there's also one talking, annoying horn in the middle that I was talking about. So that little horn, a lot of people believe that little horn is the Antichrist. And that's a study that you guys can do. If you go to Revelations 13, and you can kind of go back and forth and correlate those two together and start studying that out and dive more deeper into that. That would be like a whole study in itself. I was just trying to do like a little overview on this stuff to give you guys an understanding of the beast and the statues and kind of what they mean. So, and that's in Revelations 13 if you guys want to ever study that out. All right, so now we're getting to the next part, okay? So in Daniel 2:41 and through 43, we see that we have the legs of iron, okay? Legs, and then what's below the legs is the feet. And the feet are mixed with iron and they're mixed with clay. And there's 10 toes, right? Because there's 2 legs, okay? And that correlates over to Daniel chapter 7 with the 10 horns. That's going to be the same thing. Those 10 toes are going to be 10 kingdoms, all right? And those 10 kingdoms, the reason it's iron and clay is because they don't mix together, okay? They don't bond very well. So there's going to be division in tribulation between the kingdoms and between the iron and the clay. And that's what that's symbolizing right there with the feet. Did I read that? Oops. Good. All right. Daniel 2:34. So now we're going to talk about the stone cut without hands. Thou sawest that a stone was cut without hands, which smote the image upon his feet, that were of iron and clay, and break them into pieces. So what this is symbolizing is it's talking about a stone, and this stone is Jesus Christ. If you look at Psalms 118:22, it describes Jesus as the chief cornerstone. If you look at Matthew 21:42, Jesus actually describes himself in this instance as a stone. If you look at Acts 4:11, this was the stone which was set at naught of your builders. Okay? So when we're referring to a stone, we're referring to Jesus Christ, okay? And the reason that's saying it's cut without hands is because this stone was not made of human. This stone is made of God, and it's internal. So that's what that's saying there, because Jesus was rejected, he was crucified, he was buried, he was resurrected, and he was exalted. And then if we go over to Daniel 7, and we look at that, we're going to talk about the Ancient of Days. And the Ancient of Days is going to correlate with Daniel chapter 2. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and Ancient of Days did sit, whose garments was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flames, and his wheels as burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, the books were open. I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake, I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. As concerning the rest of the beasts that had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. So that's correlating with Jesus coming back and setting up his kingdom here on earth. And when we look at Daniel 2 and verse 7, so it's essentially saying that these kingdoms and all these things that are put up upon this earth, they're eventually going to be knocked out. And Daniel 2, the stone is going to knock down all these other kingdoms and all these nations, and he's going to set up the kingdom of God here on heaven, or here on earth. And then we're going to be able to live and to reign with him. So there's like another little, I didn't flip it, to kind of help sum it all up. So Daniel 2, gold, or head of gold. Daniel 7 is winged lion, which is Babylon. And then we have Medo-Persian is the bear and the silver. Greece is the leopard, the brass and the thighs. Rome is the beast and the legs. And then the fifth kingdom is going to be the divided kingdom, which is the 10 horns and the 10 toes, which that has not happened yet. That's going to happen after the tribulation. So the main thing that we could see here is in Daniel 2, a stone is destroyed, or a stone destroys the statue, and the Son of Man receives everlasting dominion. So the main thing that Daniel 2 and Daniel 7 is trying to get across is that kingdoms come, kingdoms go, and things are going to happen, but at the end, Christ is going to win, and Christ is going to be the ultimate victor. And that his kingdom can never be destroyed. So when he comes and set his kingdom up and he takes down all the other kingdoms and he defeats the Antichrist and he defeats Satan and throws him into the lake of fire, he's going to then set up his kingdom where we can live with him for eternity. So that's what Daniel 2 is trying to get through there. He's looking all the way through the time, or down through the time, through all these prophecies and all these things that are going to happen. So it's important to understand Daniel 2 and Daniel 7 because they correlate so well. And then if you also go to Daniel 8 and Revelations 13, they're all going to kind of correlate and kind of all work together to help you understand. So what we can learn from Daniel is that God knows everything. God controls history. Pray before we panic. Earth power is temporary. Build your life on a kingdom that will last. All right, so that is all I got. Does anyone have any questions? No, does that make sense? Or I know it's really, really confusing. Everyone's looking at me like they're confused. Sure? Okay. All right, so that's all I got for you guys today. I got you guys out of here 5 minutes early. You guys are welcome. All right, so let's close in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, we thank you for your book, Lord, and we just thank you for all that we can learn from it, Lord, and that we know that no matter what life brings and no matter what things happen, Lord, that you are in charge and that eventually one day your kingdom will reign supreme, Lord. And we thank you for that, and we just pray that you just help us to keep that in mind, Lord, when we get fearful or when we get fretful, Lord, and just pray that we just seek you first, Lord, and that we don't run towards our fear, that we run towards you. And I just pray that we have a good week, and I just pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.